The 418th Tactical Fighter Training Squadron is an inactive United States Air Force unit. Its last assignment was with the 58th Tactical Fighter Training Wing, being inactivated at Luke Air Force Base, Arizona on October 1, 1976. The unit was originally formed as the 418th Night Fighter Squadron in 1943. After training, it was deployed to 5th Air Force and ordered to New Guinea to provide air defense interceptor protection against Japanese night air raids on USAAF airfields. It later served in the Philippines campaign, where in addition to night interceptor missions it also flew day and night interdiction missions against enemy troop movements, bridges, and other targets of opportunity. It later served in Occupied Japan and Okinawa, where it was inactivated in 1947. During the Cold War, the squadron was briefly activated in the Philippines in 1958. Then became an F-104 Starfighter training unit for the West German Air Force at Luke Air Force Base, Arizona in the early 1970s. The squadron was activated on April 1, 1943 at the Army Air Force School of Applied Tactics, Orlando AAF, Florida. After several months of training with Douglas P-70 Havoc night fighters, the unit was deployed to the Pacific Theater, moving first to Camp Patrick Henry, near Newport News, Virginia, where they boarded the USS General John Pope, sailing through the Panama Canal to Milne, New Guinea. In New Guinea, the squadron was assigned to 5th Air Force and initially stationed at Doba Durant Airfield in November 1943. It was the first dedicated night interceptor squadron assigned to the Pacific Theater. However, it was found that the P-70 was not very successful in actual combat interception of Japanese fighters at night, and after a short time, 5th Air Force modified some Lockheed P-38F Lightnings in the field as single-seat night fighters by fitting an SCR-540 radar with Yagi antennae on the nose on both sides of the central nacelle, and above and below the wings. The Lightnings were much more successful than the P-70s, and Lockheed sent field representatives to New Guinea to study the modified aircraft for a new production model, P-38M, which it began producing in 1944. As the fortunes of war progressed, the squadron moved west along the northern coast of New Guinea, moving to several advance airfields on the island throughout 1943 and 1944. In September 1944, the squadron was re-equipped with P-61 Black Widows and moved to Morotai Island in the Dutch East Indies, where they engaged enemy aircraft. In the East Indies, additional B-25 Mitchells and P-38s were assigned, using the B-25S for night intruder operations, P-61S for night fighter operations, and the P-38S for searchlight cooperation operations. In November, the squadron moved to the Philippines, arriving on Leyte on 14 November. The unit was attached frequently to different units throughout the war, and remained in the Philippines until July 1945, when it moved to Okinawa. From Guinea Airfield, the unit attacked a wide range of enemy targets on Hainan Island, Hong Kong, and along the East China coast. Its first mission against targets on the Japanese home islands took place on July 28, when it attacked targets on Kyushu and also in the Shanghai area of enemy-controlled China. After VJ Day, the 418th NFS moved briefly to Atsugi Airfield, Japan during October 1945, where it was part of the occupying forces. It returned to Okinawa on June 15, 1946, conducting training operations until February 20, 1947, when the unit was inactivated. Its assigned personnel, aircraft, and equipment were transferred to the 4th Fighter Squadron, all-weather. The squadron was briefly activated by 13th Air Force at Clark Air Base, Philippines in late 1957. It was programmed to be an F-100A Super Sabre daylight air superiority squadron, however no record of any aircraft actually assigned to the unit can be found. The squadron was inactivated on July 1, 1958 due to overall budget reductions in the Air Force. On October 1, 1969, the squadron was again reactivated by Tactical Air Command under the 58th Tactical Fighter Training Wing, TFTW, at Luke AFB, Arizona. It assumed the personnel and equipment of the provisional 4518th Combat Crew Training Squadron, which had been flying GAFT F-104G Starfighters at Luke AFB since 1964. The training was in support of foreign military sales, and the squadron operated twin-seat trainers with USAAF markings and serial numbers, although the planes were produced in Germany by Messerschmitt Bochablo, MBB, under license and owned by the German government. F-104G production ended with the delivery of the last aircraft by MBB in 1973 to the squadron. The last German Air Force students graduated in the summer of 1976. The squadron was inactivated on October 1 and was replaced by an F. 4th Phantom II Training Squadron. Established as 418th Night Fighter Squadron April 1, 1943, inactivated February 20, 1947, redesignated 418th Fighter Day Squadron on December 6, 1957, activated on December 10, 1957. Inactivated on July 1, 1958, reactivated as 418th Tactical Fighter Training Squadron on October 15, 1969, inactivated on October 1, 1976. Air Defense Department, Army Air Force School of Applied Tactics, April 1, 1943, attached to 481st Night Fighter Operational Training Group, July 17 to September 26, 1943, V-Fighter Command, see November 15, 1943, attached to 1st Air Task Force, November 22, 1943, attached to 308th Bombardment Wing, February 1, 1944, attached to 310th Bombardment Wing, see May 15, 1944, attached to 13th Air Force, November 10, 1944, attached to 310th Bombardment Wing, December 26, 1944 to January 30, 1945, attached to 308th Bombardment Wing, see July 30, 1945, attached to 310th Bombardment Wing, October 22 to November 10, 1945, attached to V-Bomber Command, November 10, 1945 to March 20, 1,946,301st Bombardment Wing, March 20, 1946 to February 20, 1947. Upon inactivation, personnel and equipment reassigned to 4th Fighter Squadron, All-Weather, 39th Air Division, December 10, 1957. 13th Air Force, March 25 to July 1, 1958. 58th Tactical Fighter Training Wing, October 15, 1969 to October 1, 1976.